just excited to be back out on the field. We've been out now, for those that don't know, a couple weeks to 2 weekends to be exact, of inter squads and finishing up our second week of practice. We started a little bit later than we normally do. Those that have been around for a long time probably realize we start normally the third week of September, but back in 2019 they changed the recruiting calendar, which took about a month of recruiting away in the fall. And because of that, in 2019, we pushed our fall practice back later just so we could give the coaches a little more time to get on the or be out on the road to recruiting rather than trying to jump back and forth to practice. And 2020 obviously was a dead period, and so we went back to our normal routine, but then moved it back again this year because of the recruiting calendar. But off to good start. Not many surprises. Tim Elko is recovering from surgery and doing really well, along with Max Chofie. Hayden Dunhurst has been back out on the field swinging, but still recovering with the thumb injury, and will only DH this weekend. But probably will catch soon. Started catching this week, some short works, and we'll be out there soon. So with that, I'll leave it up to you guys.
All right, we'll start with John.
Hey, Mike.
Good morning.
Morning to you as well. I heard you when you said it earlier as well. My apologies for not responding, but I guess you wouldn't have been able to hear anyway. How have, I guess, kind of like the bats looked? I know you haven't been having that much practice, but it's got to be such a nice security blanket that you have almost a whole entire lineup returning from a year ago from an offense that led the SEC in a lot of categories.
Yes, and I think one of the goals is to just to not be content, to continue to try to get better, to continue to challenge them, and one of the focuses beyond just getting our normal offensive system in is to cut down some strikeouts, maybe be a little bit better on the base pass, especially from a stolen base standpoint. But it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling when you return just the middle of the lineup or some key parts, but when you return as many people as we do, obviously it's a good feeling, and not just offensively but defensively as well. As you start to go through things and team stuff in the fall, and you got Jacob back, and then you got Chatagnier back, and Bench back, and McCants, and you look around the infield and you got Dunhurst and Lapasser and Harris, three catchers that were here. When you're doing different team defenses, bunt defenses, first, third defense, makes it much simpler. And I think easier for the few new guys like Sameh and others to kind of pick up. So, that's been good, but I think the challenge is to continue to try to get better. And, one of those things, or two of those things, as I talked about, is to reduce the strikeouts, which, I can already see, in a couple weekends of inter squad games where guys have made, big improvements, like Peyton Chatagnier, just, more competitive at bats, striking out less, and then trying to steal a few more bases than we did last year, to be able to be more of a threat on the bases.
And a quick follow-up to that, sorry, real quickly. You mentioned Tim recovering from his ACL surgery. Do you have a rough estimate in mind when you hope to get him back out there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little far out to say a specific date, but I think in general, we think when we get back in January, that he should be pretty much full go and be able to do just about anything, that he would normally do.
All right, we'll go to Nick.
John got the bats. I guess that leaves me the arms. So many new pitchers on this staff, Mike. Just who has stood out, and is anybody kind of establishing themselves as a potential weekend guy in your eyes?
Yeah, it's early, and I know it sounds like coaches speak, but it is. And what we've done, and because we have so many guys, we've just really stayed. I think Gaddis and Maddox last week threw 3 innings, but 2 weekends in a row, everybody just has thrown 2 innings. We'll do that again this weekend, through the inter-squad games and through, the scrimmage with Arkansas Little Rock. But some guys have done well. Jack Washburn's, throwing the ball great in his 4 innings, hasn't given up a run. John Gaddis has pitched well in, I guess, 5 innings, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't believe he's given up a run either. But a lot of guys, I think like Derek Diamonds look sharp, Jack Doherty's look sharp. Some other new guys that I think have pitched well and certainly will compete for some type of role on this staff. Hunter Elliott, true freshman from Tupelo. Riley Maddox, true freshman from Jackson Prep. Blake McGehee, true freshman from Louisiana, Alexandria area. All those guys have pitched really well. And you're right. There's a lot of guys. Drew McDaniel's actually pitched pretty well. Hasn't had great results, which can happen sometimes when you face a good lineup. But his stuff has been, sensational. And so a lot of guys have pitched well. We got a lot of time left, about maybe 5 weeks left of the fall, including this weekend, to kind of decipher that. But that's, I think, Nick, what'll be talked about when you talk about baseball from now to the start is who are going to be those 3, who's going to be guys in the back of the bullpen. Also, Brandon Johnson, I forgot to mention, has pitched really well and really good stuff. So there's enough guys out there. We just got to narrow it down to see who are going to be those guys.
Chris, go ahead.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
What are you most looking forward to on Saturday with Arkansas Little Rock? And have you named a starter yet for that?
We've named a starter. Jack Doherty will start the first couple innings, but we're going to pitch 6 guys, 2 innings apiece. The guys that'll pitch will be Jack Doherty, Derek Diamond, John Gaddis, Drew McDaniel, Jack Washburn, Brandon Johnson. And then we also have a couple, if necessary, guys in Dylan DeLucia and Hunter Elliott. And so if all goes well, more than likely, just 6 guys will throw 2 innings apiece. Some of that, I've always kind of struggled, and this is kind of my, conundrum with the scrimmage in the fall. I like it. I don't want to come across as negative about it. I think it's great to play outside competition a couple times. I think it kind of breaks the monotony up for the kids, and you play each other so much, in our inter squad games through the fall. So all of that's good. I don't put as much merit as how are they going to compete against other competition. I don't. It's a scrimmage. It's a practice game. We could roll innings. We could do a lot of different things. But the reason for the 2 innings is we don't want to just throw everybody an inning, because that takes us as far as workload and capacity and pitches and stuff a step backwards. If we go too much, then you don't give enough guys opportunities in the game. So we've done that the last few times where we just run 6 guys out there, 2 innings apiece, and hopefully they can get through it. It's I think this weekend, I think the players look look forward to it more than we do. To us, it's another scrimmage. We're just playing a different uniform. I think for them it's a different deal, and that's good. I think that's a good part of it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go back to John.
Mike, obviously last year we all saw what Jacob Gonzalez was able to do and the stardom that he showed at such a young age. But you being someone that's with him all the time, I mean, what's kind of that next step for him to take in his game, in your opinion?
Wow. He did everything so well last year. To play what I think probably gets forgotten the most is to play a premium defensive position. He wasn't, everybody, it's easy to talk about offensive numbers, right? It's easy to talk about, home runs or RBIs or batting average. But to also do it at shortstop, I haven't seen that and so, but I think there's more in his glove. I think, just watching him, one of the coaches made a comment the other day in practice about, how he continues to improve, defensively, how much more comfortable he looks. And I thought he looked good last year, but that to play that position is tough. I look back and we've had some really good shortstops, but, of recent, when you look at a guy like Kessinger, who's tremendous kid that's, going to play in the big leagues, and you watch, we watch and we see, remember, we see it through a different lens, and we see a lot more than you guys do because we see him every single day. To watch, Gray, as a freshman, it's tough. It's a tough position, and it's tough when, it's your first year out there. Jacob, handled it out there and was terrific. But I think he'll even play better this year. I think he wants to be better on the bases and steal a few more bases. And then, of course, it's hard to duplicate that. It's hard to duplicate double-digit home runs. It's hard to duplicate a 350, batting average. Those things are hard to duplicate. I think sometimes you just assume if a guy hits 350 the next year, then man, he'll hit 375. That just doesn't happen in our game. And, so it can, but it's not just, I don't think we should just assume that, if he could put those numbers up again, we'd probably be pretty happy.
All right, we'll go back to Nick.
Like we talked a lot last year about the expanded rosters because of COVID, kind of heading into year 2 with another jumbo roster. Have you learned any tricks about managing so many extra players, or how are you kind of handling it?
I don't know about tricks. I think I learned some things not to do. Might be a better way of putting it, Nick. And one of the things I guess learned, I don't want to even say disappointed because, it never really happened before. But at one point and early in the season, I looked up and we had, something like 18, 19 pitchers with statistics, and which can be, nice because you get a lot of people in, but I don't think that helped the pitching staff. I think, some of those guys not being able to pitch more consistently, and not being able to pitch multiple innings to where you can get in a jam and get out of it or extend yourself. I don't think I helped our progress, early in the season when that was going on. And so we'll try not to make that mistake again. This year we have just as many pitchers this year. So I think the goal is to try to narrow that down. I don't know if there's an exact number. That might be the next question, but certainly you can't pitch 19 guys. We play approximately 4 games a week, and that's just too many guys. I don't know what the right number, and it probably is very subjective because it just depends, how those guys pitch. Sometimes you have, starters that get extended. And so you can even look at that at the beginning of the year with a healthy, Nikhazy and a healthy Hoagland at one point early in the year where those guys can pitch, 7+ innings on the week. That's 15 innings that they're taking out of the, 32 that you may play. And so, that means if you're pitching 19 guys, there's 17 guys that are pitching the rest of those innings. And so we need to be a little more consistent and have a little better rhythm, with those bullpen guys and guys that are pitching, versus just getting on a Wednesday, getting a lead and having everybody just pitch 1 inning. Sometimes that's good, but to do that week in and week out, I don't know if that's necessarily, super healthy.
How did you handle re-recruiting some of the veterans? I know most are back. A couple of guys might have left. Was that player by player? Did everybody get the chance to come back? Just kind of how did you handle some of those seniors?
I think every situation's different. And but one of the things that we're fortunate about is, they love it here. They love Oxford. They love Ole Miss. I think they love this baseball program. And, I think a lot of times when you get down to that point, do you want another year at this? Do you want another year in this program? Do you want another year here at Ole Miss? Do you want another year with an opportunity to get to Omaha? And I think, a lot of those guys had, felt like an Elko, like a Graham and others had some unfinished business. And, we want to get there. And I know they know we're, those guys have, been in that game 3 and so close that, they want to be the guys that get there. So I think that's really cool.